Want to shout out to Smilemus, who followed us 41 minutes ago. Sorry, we were not live for that, but you should be. Thank you for following. I hope you enjoy the podcast. We are going to talk, as we always do, about video game news, and of course, we're now actually officially at 120 followers. Nice. That's a nice. We're gonna talk about uh, you know goalposts and the like, achievements. 120 is a good number. Uh, and now that I'm talking about followers, if you want to support the podcast, there are many ways to do so, including following, subbing, joining the Discord, and of course dropping bits and subscribing. So thank you again, Smiley Mix, for that. I hope I did not completely destroy your handle there. So we are going to talk about video game news and video game companies, and we're going to talk about some very serious subjects. So, and I'll repeat this before we go into the actual subject again. This podcast will have a content warning for sexual assault and rape and abuse. So, if that's something that you, for whatever reason, you don't want to hear or talk about, I'd like to just say my thank you for just listening to me up to this point, and hopefully we can have something more cheery for you next week. But we decided to tackle this subject, so I perfectly understand if you don't want to deal with it, and I'll be on my way. But we'll start with the news, and then when we got to the subject proper, again, I will do another warning. So, continuing on, let's start with the news, starting with Kotaku. Uh, let's start this. GameStop. We're still surviving, still alive. GameStop will require all customers to wear face masks. Update, but employees can't enforce it. By Ian Walker. This was on Friday at 2:30. File on Kotaku. GameStop will require all customers to wear face masks in the United States. Location starting in July 27th. The company announced via press release today. We believe that's the right thing to do to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of our associates and customers from the growing spread of COVID-19. Okay, I'm not gonna keep reading this because this is a quote on the article from this, because this is a company that stayed open in spite of being told to close in many locations and defied local law to do so. And I'll just go straight over the update of 7/17, 4:41 p.m. Eastern. According to the GameStop employees, they will now be allowed to refuse service to customers that aren't wearing masks, nor will they be able to ask them to leave the store. In a memo sent to store today and acquired by Kotaku, employees are instead asked to follow several steps, including informing the customer complimentary mask and suggesting alternate methods of shopping. Which, again, remember the old story, GameStop didn't give their employees mask and or either mask, hand sanitizer, or gloves. So who's
Yeah.
yeah.
Are they even still open? Because I haven't. Well, I've been good, and I try to avoid going out unnecessarily. So
Mhm.
I haven't been through. I haven't been out to a GameStop in a while, or like I haven't even driven past one to see if the doors are open. The last time I get like this last time I bought something from them was back like in April. And what you had to do is you had to order it online at the store. You'll get a text when or call when it was ready to be picked up.
Mhm.
And then I picked up I bought 2 items and they were both located at different stores, so I had to drive to different stores to pick it up. And each of them kind of had their different procedure. But essentially it was at the door, no one can come in. It's like, here you go. Um, like one of them was just like, "Well, okay." You just call them, let them know you're there, and then they just open the door, hand you the bag, and there you go. There was the first one I went to though had a more precautions than that, and I think it was pretty ingenious. So they have outside the little X's on the floor, social distancing and whatnot. What you had to do is you called them, you let them know that you're there. You had to, take your ID, and they had it like a little taped, area on the window next to the door. You had to put it there at the door, like facing in so that they can see it's your ID. And then uh and you kind of step away, they pop out, put the your product on the table there, and there you go. It's like that those were like really good and smart like precautions that they took there. It was I thought it was very ingenious. I'm sure it's a little bit I the person ahead of me, because there was someone else already there, I think they had to pay, so they had to, like, they leave the card at the table, they go in there, they have to process and then come back. But I mine was already paid online, so they just drop it at the table,
Mhm.
and there you go. So, I don't know what if they're even open, like, to the public or if they're still doing door stuff, because haven't even I haven't even wanted to kinda encourage, GameStop to be open.
Yeah.
Like, it's personally, it's sort of like a, I wanna support the people that work there, but at the same time, I don't wanna put them at risk, and I definitely don't wanna encourage, the corporate side of it to be
Mhm.
so bold. It's like, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna be open," and,
Well,
put their employees at more risk.
it implies that yes, that what's going to happen is that you will there will actually will be open at these locations that will be open, and thus um, you know that's why they're asking for masks, so people probably will be going in as opposed to doing curbside stuff. So that's a thing. Um, Not a good idea, but if they can't enforce it, then you know
Yeah. So,
And
the
the
enforcement
explanation that is
part.
given is because supposedly they're afraid that that if they are, they try to enforce it and somebody pulls a gun, because I mean, people actually are being shot and threatened because of this.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard stories about that too. Um, and that's the thing I was gonna bring up. So it's like it sucks that they're not gonna enforce it, but at the same time, like uh where I work, we've done that and we get those irate people. And
mhm.
then like, oh, the ones that also try to throw out some bullshit. Well, it's a medical thing. Like reason. It's like you seem fine. What? Yeah, and of course, there's the people that too when they get irate, they're also less like they're more willing to get in your face and not respect social distancing.
Yeah, they're in fighting mode, and I
Yeah.
want to speak to your manager mode, and that's yeah.
Yeah. Well, uh, well, I'm not gonna throw out a prediction, but I am like wondering. It's like let's see. I guess what the state of GameStop will be at the end of the year.
Mm.
It's gonna be interesting to see whether they're still like in a I don't think they'd go out of business, but I think they'd be either in a okay place or a bad place
Well, they're
at the
probably
end
in
of
a
the year.
bad place now because we also reported that even with the upsurge of sales as COVID hit, because it was one of the few places that kept was still open, and people were buying video games because they want to stay at home, whatever. That wasn't enough. The overall sales were down. So yeah, it didn't work. It was in Christmas in April or something like that. Moving on to somewhat more cheery news, I hope. Rocket League is going free to play and leaving Steam by Ethan Gosh. On Kotaku. The car soccer Rocket League is getting an update later in this summer that will make it free to play. Developer Psyonix announced today on the games blog. Rocket League will also launch with it on the Epic Game Store with the update arrives and will no longer be available to download from Steam. Oh, but now they became Epic Games. Yeah, I heard about that. They were going to be an Epic Games exclusive. But I already have it on Steam, so I guess hopefully it doesn't get invalidated. Well, the free-to-play update, Rocket League, which currently sells for $20, so I guess I paid for something that was... Ugh. That pisses me off. I paid for something... I mean, it was on sale, but I paid for something that eventually will be free. Eh. It finally supports class platform progression by tying player inventories to competitive rankings to an on a unified Epic Games account, and even through the games will no longer be able to new players on Steam. Those who already own the game will be able to launch and play it from within Steam clients. So, and it says a free-to-play update will also bring chances to how games, tournaments, and reward challenges versus give existing players some bonus cosmetics, i.e., more chances of people to spend money on microtransactions.
Hmm.
So
Oh.
there's that.
So I thought that Rocket League already went free to play, or was it that, or am I misremembering that they said something about like removing microtransactions or down, like
Uh,
restructuring their
they were
microtransactions or something?
restructuring, but they're not eliminating them. I mean, after
Hmm.
all, if they're going free to play, then how are they gonna get any money? Unless they do
Yeah.
commercials or something in the
Well,
game.
I
Yeah.
mean, and it Rocket League, I feels like it's been around at least 5 years now. So I
Yeah.
remember seeing it, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this game's super fun." It looked interesting, but not really my thing, so I've never given it a shot. But like maybe at this point they've made enough money in terms of like just lifetime sales that they don't really need to charge for it anymore. And but I guess like even then, I guess they still need to make money to keep the servers on. But
Mhm.
why are they leaving Steam? Like, is the game just gonna be not playable on Steam anymore, or
Yeah. Well, I think it's Epic moving into that. But talking about Epic,
oh,
go ahead. Yeah.
is it are they Epic owned now?
Yeah, they're Epic only.
Oh, okay, that makes sense
Yeah, they're
then.
Epic exclusive. So talking about Epic and kind of in the other direction in a way, Epic Games, and this is from PC Gamer. Epic Games Store has officially integrated into GOG Galaxy 2.0. I got the email a couple of days ago. I
Hmm.
haven't made the changes since. Another digital marketplace wants to grow. This is from Christopher Livingstone over at PC Gamer. Since until today, Xbox Live has been the only service that officially integrated with Galaxy, but Epic Games Store has now joined the GOG Galaxy fold as well. This isn't especially earth-shattering since the Epic Store, like other clients, already work with Galaxy due to community add-on. But as Galaxy keeps growing and adding features, the official integration in Epic Games Store means we don't need to lean on add-ons to make sure it continues to work well with Galaxy. We're excited that Epic Games integrations come to Galaxy 2.0, said Steven Allison,
Oh.
general manager of the Epic Games Store. It's an important step towards breaking down walls between PC stores, as it enables a unified experience for players who manage their PC games library depending on where the games were purchased. If well, I remember. Seems like my prediction has come true,
Huh.
or it's coming true, and that is people are, whoever manages to, at least on the client side things, manage to integrate stuff and make it on the one client that you can. I hope you can actually launch games. Um, you know, then
Mhm.
it actually would work as intended, right? I mean, you can integrate to Steam and stuff like that, but you can only manage your games in the sense that you can see where they are, etc.
Yeah.
You have to launch the other client to do so. If this is an official integration that allows you to launch only one client, and it doesn't say you can or cannot, um, uh, lastly, let's see, we mentioned animate all extra icons from your live identify your various game libraries under a single client. You're doing a pretty good job at it too, making your games easy to access and manage, and even including your subscriptions to various game services and friends lists spread out over different clients. So it hasn't done that yet, but if GOG can do that, then they will be in a very powerful position because you're going through the client, you're not going through GOG to buy the games, and so Epic will still have exclusivity, but they still get the profits, and that business model works. And since they are unwilling to really spend a lot of money in their client anyway, this this is a win-win for them, right?
Hmm.
So there's that. Um, so I guess my prediction is coming true that you eventually would
Yeah.
have a unification of clients.
I coincidentally like actually just updated GOG Galaxy app. I didn't even know that it integrated with Xbox
God, yeah.
at all. I didn't even Oh, that's news to me.
Yeah, I
I was
mean, remember that Xbox Live also has Xbox Store as well. Um, so there's that. I mean, I last time I tried to download something from the Xbox Store, it was a
yeah.
horrible experience.
I
So I
mean,
don't try that.
yeah. I kind of there's also kind of like some issues with like the Xbox because I kind of thought like it doesn't seem like your games are cross buys per
Hmm.
se, or at least not every game seems like a cross buy between Windows and Xbox, Xbox Live,
Yeah.
kind of, even though they're the same marketplace essentially because 'cause they're owned, but, like, I did get, like, a copy of, The Outer
I
The
don't
Outer
work.
Worlds
Yeah.
through the Microsoft Store because I honestly didn't really wanna support the weird exclusivity crap, the scooping up of exclusivities all of a sudden when they've had no hand in helping the game be developed.
Hmm.
Um, but like was kind of disappointed that like, oh, if for whatever reason I somehow end up getting an Xbox One in some way that I wouldn't be able to like use that to play the Outer Worlds through it, even
Hmm.
though I already bought it through their marketplace kind of thing. But
Well, I
uh,
tried my side story. I tried buying it from the Xbox Store, from the Microsoft Store. It added a bunch of DLLs and stuff like that that completely screwed up with my machine, and so I had to
hmm,
download, return the. Well, I tried to get a refund. They didn't give me a refund, and I couldn't play the game. And then I tried it with the Epic Store, and the game was a bit slow. I couldn't really run it effectively, so I basically said, okay, fine. And the Epic Store did give me a refund, so if I do buy it again at some point in the future, it will be from the Epic Store. Even though I'm not a big fan of it, but hey, it's the better
yeah.
store right now. So there's that. Talking about Xbox and Xbox Live. Xbox Live Gold 12-month subscription removal confirmed by Microsoft. This is from Game Rant. 4 days ago, Rory Young. Microsoft officially confirms that removed the 12-month Xbox Live Gold subscription option, but doesn't reveal why just yet. Uh, read the full article. Microsoft has officially confirmed they have removed the Xbox Live Gold 12-month subscription. That the Microsoft Store 1 month and 3 month subscriptions remain available, while the 12-month is not. Microsoft made the removal on Thursday, but left Xbox users wonder if there's been a mistake. Um, the unofficial explanation of the removal is using certain rumors that the Xbox team is about to remove the price of Xbox Live with the launch of the Xbox Series X. Um, but they haven't. So they removed that, but they haven't. They haven't. They confirmed that they removed it, but they haven't said what's going to be the future Xbox Live. I mean, it's happened before, in which the original Xbox Live, the original version of Xbox Live that was in the Xbox OC got discontinued when they
Hmm.
eventually moved to the 360. It's the same name, but it's not the same service. Uh, no, actually, no. They removed support for the Xbox OC. Sorry, no, the same service, but they removed, so you can't use it. And I think they still supporting the 360. I'm not really sure. I gotta check on that. More news on Xbox about stopping service. Kotaku, Sagsweisen, last Thursday. Microsoft is already stopping production of Xbox One X. Which is a little premature, I think. Microsoft is stopping production of Xbox One X and Xbox One S, all digital edition consoles. It told The Verge today it will continue to produce a standard Xbox One S. The news comes after many would-be Xbox owners have had trouble finding the consoles at stores. As we ramp into the future Xbox X series, we're talking the natural step of topping production of Xbox X One X and Xbox One S all digital edition. A company spokesman told The Verge. Xbox One S will continue to be manufactured and sold globally. You remember when we were talking about the PlayStation and he said, hey, I think there's an Xbox version that is all digital. Well, that's, the Xbox
Yeah.
One S, not the One X. These are confusing. As an all digital edition, but that was an original launch. Those are getting discontinued, but the Xbox One S with the drive will manufacture and sold globally. I guess it's supporting secondary markets, which haven't gone fully digital yet. Uh, So the market's still split. Continuing on the article, that was a quote from company spokesperson that on The Verge. The article continues says it's just debatable. It's debatable how natural this step is. Ending production on consoles is a normal part of the console cycle, but this feels extremely early. For starters, the Xbox Series X isn't even out yet. Even stranger, its decision to stop producing the more powerful Xbox One X while leaving the low-end Xbox One S on shelves, but not the lower-end all-digital edition. Reports of players having trouble finding and buying the new Xbox One X consoles have been floating around for a few weeks. You know what, Microsoft, you can keep the Xbox One, but just clean it up because it's so confusing right now. I don't know which. I wasn't even know which one they were talking about for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like what the hell?
Uh, so in terms of them essentially ceasing production even before the new console is out, that tells me that they're really banking on selling those consoles at launch, and
Mm-hmm.
it's likely that they're going to I think they're going to push the entire, like, backwards compatibility, so there's no risk of you, I guess, missing out if you buy it if you're new to Xbox and you buy into the new console. Like, you really wouldn't need to worry about, like, "Well, if I ever wanted to play this older, game for the Xbox X, One X, I'd have to buy a console or find a used one and then get the games." Like, no, you can just either use the Xbox Pass or if you manage to buy it or you can buy it on digital store and it'll be backwards compatible or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yep. So there's that. So confusing news from the Xbox front or Microsoft front. Ugh. For those who are collectors, just like I know Chabawan is, Untitled Goose Game box version is just lovely. Well, look, Plunkett. So it's
I I was just
yeah.
I was just looking at that too. It's like, "Oh, hey, that's neat." I especially love the, something that they actually marketed. Can I have that up? That they are, a lot of the packaging is made from recyclable, materials or, um, essentially trying to be, like, very eco-friendly, and that is something that, like, uh, there's a, YouTuber by the name I believe it's, Heavy Eyes or something like that, Heavy Eyes. He, started doing, like, a video series and where he looks into essentially what kind of environmental impact the gaming industry as a whole has on the environment and climate change and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting it's probably not a lot of things that people think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's digital wise, it's there's less of an impact, but there's probably more of an impact than people would expect. But as someone like me who is a collector, who wants that physical media, there is a price to it that has an environmental impact that I need to acknowledge, I need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But he also mentioned that there's, like, a lot of, there are some companies, Sega released, I think, some sort of game where it's made of like, the packaging is made from recyclable packaging, and it's trying to be as very eco-friendly as possible. And I really like that. Hey, here's an indie game because indie games usually don't get like physical releases unless it's through specialty outlets. Like this one is im8bit.com. I don't think I've heard of them before, but they look like one of those that make video game merchandise of indie games and stuff. There's also like Fan Gamer, and of course limited run games that does that. So it's great to see, and that's something I'm really glad to see that these indie games are not only getting physical releases, but they're also getting environmentally conscious packaging,
Yeah.
and there's some thought being put into their production. That's something I'm super glad to see, and I definitely want to support something like this. And it'd be great if we can start getting like some of the bigger gaming industries to go along with something like this and be more um, environmentally conscious about how they put their products out.
In other news, Kotaku from Ethan Gatch, and this is very interesting. NHL 21 isn't getting a PS5 or Xbox whatever version release. I'm gonna call it a whatever version from now on. EA's latest hockey game, NHL 21, won't be out until October this year, and it's not going to have a special version for the PS5 or Xbox whatever version console. The publisher can also update in website today, quoting EA, for NHL 21, we made the decision to focus on adding innovation and new features rather than the resource-heavy task of porting the game to a new console technology. Adding innovation. Okay, I'm going to read that again because we'll talk about the confusing stuff. For NHL 21, we made the decision to focus on adding innovation and new features rather than the resource-heavy task of porting the game to new console technology. You would think that the new console technology would allow you for innovation and new features, but I guess not. You'll still be able to play NHL 21 on the next gen console through forward compatibility. What will be backwards compatibility. But we're fully focused on launching NHL 21 on Xbox One and PS4 and look forward for the opportunity the next gen system will bring in the future. Okay, EA, you just confused me. You're not porting it, but you are porting it. And it's close to October, which will be probably the consoles will be out in November. And okay, sure. Color me confused. I'm gonna put it in the chat so that if chat knows what the heck is happening, they can decide and read it and try to interpret this, because I cannot. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is coming to Switch in 2021. I think Gatch. It's been a long time since we look at Shin Megami Tensei 5, but it's today's Nintendo Mini Direct Series publisher. Atlus confirmed the game is still on its way to due sometime in 2021. Originally announcing back in 2017 with a trailer, we haven't heard much about Shin Megami Tensei 5 in the years since. By the way, this is a series which is a parent series for the Persona series, so people might be interested in that. It's like, Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. In fact, it's Shin Megami Tensei Persona. Shin Megami Tensei Persona 1. Persona 2. That's how it works. For the company released window news doesn't add much to the inside. There's still modern day Tokyo and sort of apocalyptic event and tons of demons. Unlike the Persona series, which spun off of it and has been Sony console exclusive for years, the recent Shin Megami Tensei games have been Nintendo only. Unlike previous SMTs, it will be the first on Switch and not relegated purely to handheld devices. Atlus previously said it will be launching game something this year, whether because of ongoing issues or around COVID-19 or just normal struggles of game development, that no longer is in the cards, etc., etc., etc. So for those who are interested and have a Switch, here you go. I want to see where the Persona series came from. You can check out, hopefully, Shin Megami Tensei 5 in 2021. Also, this is from the Nintendo Mini Direct. So now they're even ditching the big shows and concentrating on having just a little more directs throughout the year. So, in our social conscious days that we're living in, among other things, Madden 21 will drop the Washington NFL team former name and logo. By Steven Totilo, Friday, 4:38 on Kotaku. Next month's Madden NFL 21 is being altered to the last minute to remove images of the Washington Redskins team name and logo imagery, a ref for the publisher Electronic Arts has told Kotaku. This comes at the end of a week that began with NFL team's management finally listening to calls to the team's racist name to be changed. If we don't know, the term Redskins, and I'm quoting because that's the actual name, but still officially of the team, it's a reference to the color of many Native Americans in the North American continent as being color red as opposed to black, white, or other colors. The fact that this has been going for it's like naming a basketball team
The
darkies,
the N words.
Well, it is in that sense, but color wise.
But I guess a little bit.
Yeah.
The darkies.
Yeah, and I don't want to even repeat them too much. So the fact that it lasted that long, but social pressure and economic pressure. I read that the original news, basically a lot of companies says, what, we're done with this. We're not going to support you financially, and they were like, Okay, I guess it's time to change the name.
Yeah,
Hit our
it's
bottom.
funny. So it's funny how like people stand on their principles. I guess only so much until money gets involved. I mean, it's kind of sad.
Which means it's not much of a principle if you can just,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
guess like it's and I guess like I would say that the resistance to them wanting not to want to change the team's name would probably be more of a not because they my freedom, I'm an American and I get to name them and it's not that offensive, guys. It's more of a well, we don't want to change the name because we already developed the brand around this name and the it would take a lot to transition that our brand to a new one and it might not stick or we might lose an audience to that, ergo we lose money. But then of course I guess it takes having to pressure the team to do the right thing and make this your current brain as toxic as possible. Like, I hate having to say it like that,
Hmm.
but it's essentially what it is, and it's kind of bad. It's bad for them that's what it takes
Yeah.
to do the right thing.
Yeah, it does. Now, I think we may have a partial answer to the fact that the Xbox thing was being canceled, the Xbox Live 1 year subscription, because Game Pass Ultimate is getting video game streaming in September by Ethan Gatch on Kotaku this last Thursday. Today's Microsoft today that was last Thursday. Now today Tuesday. Today Microsoft said the video game streaming service Project Xcloud will be available to anyone who subscribes to Game Pass Ultimate later this year. Currently in beta, Project Xcloud lets you stream Xbox games to phones and tablets. Come September, anyone with a Game Pass Ultimate subscription will bundles Game Pass and Xbox Live together for $15 a month will be able to use xCloud, including the streaming the full library of games currently available on Game Pass. Example: when Halo Infinite comes out later this year, you're able to play on Xbox One, Xbox Series, whatever, on your phone via xCloud with saved data and progress carrying over across each of those platforms. So if there's this, yeah, they're discontinuing some of the old digital stuff. Let's say the old digital console, but they're moving to streaming and then bundling with Xbox Live, $15 a month, which will be
Hmm.
much higher than the 12. You know what you pay. I mean, $15. It's like what, 150, $180 a year. You know, pay month to month, 12-year subscription, 12 month subscription. Yeah, I think now what we're seeing, if they're pushing for streaming and they're pushing also for Xbox and PC games to be in the same ecosystem, then this might be a clue where that's why they're dropping or changing their schemes right here. So yeah, we may have a partial answer. Um, in other news, from Zach Zweisen, again Thursday, last week, Red Dead Online players dressed as clowns to protest 7 months without an update. After 7 months without a significant update, Red Dead Online players have decided to send in the clowns. The hope among many is that dressing up as a clown would get Rockstar's attention and encourage developers to bring new update to the game a little faster. Plus, it's something to do. Guys, do not encourage crunch. No,
Hmm.
that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing because this is what's going to happen. You're going to get a big update and say, we work hard to get you this new update with all these new features. And then somebody's going to say, yeah, and like 5 people drop dead under their desk because of overwork. And I hope I'm exaggerating. Let me repeat that. I hope I'm exaggerating. Is the game unplayable? Uh, if it isn't, okay. But if they had to fix things that, you know, other players are still waiting for like next in game period of time. GTA Online will receive updates including the new contact missions and F1 racers. And how quickly the game community can start to say popular game is dead, but the RDO case is hard to blame players for feeling that way. Then the move that echoes the recent Alien War in GTA Online. RDO players have been dressing up as clowns to protest a lack of update, lack of communication, Rockstar, or the game's future, or to bring attention to the game's current state. Again, don't. Sorry, Mr. Soisen, do not encourage this because what you're encouraging is crunch, especially for a company like many companies who is already notorious for crunch. So don't do that.
I isn't there like another thing when it comes to people dressing up as clowns? I correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't people dressing up as clowns like a dog whistle or something? I think.
Hmm.
I so I mean that's kind of problematic too. It's like not only are you encouraging this crunch culture, like, you guys are
Yeah.
releasing content quick enough. Who cares what the cost is? Well, they're not even probably thinking about that. They're not even thinking. I don't think they're thinking about like they're uh, pushing a crunch culture, but that's what they're doing.
Hmm.
But couple that with the potentially, you know, either either knowingly or not pushing a dog whistle as your protest method.
Hmm.
Uh, Gaming.
Talk about delays. One third of developers have had their games delayed due to coronavirus. This is on PC Gamer Joe Parlock. Longer hours, reduced income, and stress has also affected development. One third of the developers have had their projects delayed due to coronavirus. In a survey of the Game Developers Conference, which itself had to go digital only for the conference this year due to the virus, 33% of the developers claim that game they have been working on has been delayed, citing reasons such as transition from working at home as the primary cause of delays. And reporting claimed that 70% of developers have had to move to working from home since the pandemic began. According to one respondent, while their own city took up remote working relatively smoothly, partner companies who lagged behind them were responsible for the delays. One company in devices bottleneck is Nintendo, whose certification system struggled with the pressures put upon it by coronavirus. And on and on and on. All by include access to required hardware. Console development kits are often subject to intense security policies that prevent them from being taken home, especially with incoming next generation, and struggles in recording voiceover and audio work from home. Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is uh, you know, this is a good look into how things have been checking up with the virus. So I'm gonna leave it on the chat as well, because it is an interesting read. Perhaps we will revisit that subject in the future. Um, oh, the Dead Horse. That everybody wants to keep
Oh,
going back from the dead. An expanded edition of Mass Effect Trilogy art book is coming.
yeah.
We're not getting a new Mass Effect, and we're certainly not getting a remake just yet. But we're getting an art book by Jody McGregor over at PC Gamer.
So we're getting essentially it's not quite releasing a DLC to an art book, but more like like a re-release game of the year collector's complete edition.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, like I think a complete edition would also include Andromeda, but I'm sure they don't.
Well,
Actually, did Andromeda get a art book? Mass Effect Andromeda art book. Oh, yeah, yeah, it did.
yeah. And that,
So yeah, that can at least honestly, like I don't know why I would feel bad if Mass Effect Andromeda didn't get like an art book because I mean, I guess I could appreciate like art, concept art and stuff. Like, oh, I'm like, oh, that'd be sad if we don't get to see the concept art to Mass Effect Andromeda, regardless of how
I mean, it has some
awful
beautiful,
the
beautiful
yeah
landscapes and planets, and certainly had a lot of good ideas. But as always, implementation wise,
yeah
it's
the final product did no.
yeah.
But yeah, that's like I could go. I have the original. Like I got that.
Mm-hmm.
I got that among the hype for Mass Effect 3. That's kids. That's why you don't give into hype.
Hmm.
Like Cyberpunk 2077. It might be good, but don't buy into the hype.
Mm.
Yeah, not like me. I got the art book and I got it through I think some vendor because it came with fucking like DLC promo shit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice art book. I enjoyed flipping through it. So it's no, don't give into shit like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
continuing. We're about to hit the our discussion, so I'm gonna cut on these news. Yeah, Star Wars: The Old Republic has launched on Steam, and something else which are interesting. U.S. Army Twitch bans may violate the First Amendment. U.S. Army basically is going big on
Oh.
esports, and they were on
Hmm.
Twitch. But this is by Andy Schalk on PC Gamer. The government is forbidden from regulating speech in public forums. It's been not been particularly good couple of weeks for the U.S. Army esports team, and yes, in case you were aware, the U.S. Army has its own esports team, because of course they do. The Army recently launched its own Twitch channel for live streaming games, but it ran into grief when viewers began ignoring the gameplay and asking for about war crimes committed by the Army instead. Channel
Oh, so
moderators recently deleted the questions as they arrived, but those who persisted found themselves banned from the channel. But as Washington Post reported, that could open the door for even more trouble for the Army because such bans could violate the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
so actually that is interesting. Like so okay, so it's not Twitch banning
No.
people or oh, it's the army moderator. So this isn't an a government owned Twitch channel that's censoring people. Yeah, okay, that does make sense as much as some people would probably eject. It's no different than like Trump can't mute people or erase their comments
Mm-hmm.
on his Twitter because it's officially
Document.
owned a government document and it's owned and operated by a member of the government, which becomes public records.
And
So you can't delete that. And um yeah, so I thought this might have also tied into I haven't read through it, but I guess that Doctor Disrespect who got banned suddenly and no one
mm-hmm.
really knows why, but there's something about that and they're like, "Oh, it might be a legal thing." It's like I certainly hope this isn't like a freedom of speech, Doctor Disrespect, because you're not you're not being censored. You can
Yeah,
go to a
no.
different platform.
Here's the ruling on Donald Trump. I also quoted in the article. We hold the portion of the at real Donald Trump account, the interactive space where Twitter users may direct engage with the content of the president's tweets, are properly analyzed under the public forum doctrine set forth by the Supreme Court. A such space is a designated public forum, and that the blocking of the plaintiff's space on the political speech constitutes viewpoint discrimination that violates the First Amendment. Judge Naomi Rice Bushwell wrote, as reported by CNN, the ruling was upheld a year later. I love it, the Supreme Court. So there's that. And so yeah, that's an interesting take on private public spaces and corporations and all that. And now we're gonna get into the meat of what we're gonna be talking in the last 40 or some minutes, 20 minutes before the end of the hour, a little over like that. New report claims that Assassin's Creed developers were pressured into minimizing female protagonists by Joe Parlock. This is from a series that
Hmm.
the creators once claimed that animating female characters was going to be very hard. Uh, and it adds, Alexios was never meant to be playable. There's also supposed to be Cassandra. Cassandra is a female character, and then there's a twin brother called Alexius. Recent Assassin's Creed games were really going to have much larger roles for the women protagonists, according to a new report from Bloomberg. This report, which investigates recent reports of harassment, abuse, and toxicity within Ubisoft, outlines how the publisher culture of misogyny and machismo impacted on the games it produced. According to Bloomberg, Assassin's Creed Syndicate was originally going to feature a more even split between the two playable leads, twins Jacob and Evie Fry, after meddling from including recently this resigned Sergei Haskowitz. The balance became much more skewed in Jacob's favor. In the final game, it is rough 40-60 split between Evie and Jacob. This pattern emerged again in Assassin's Creed Origins. The original story saw protagonist Bayek killed off early in the game to be replaced by his wife Aya. In the final game, Aya has massively reduced role, with her only really sharing in a few ship combat segments, while Bayek became the primary lead. A year later, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was going to originally only feature Cassandra as a player character. Asquith and then people within Ubisoft marketing department claimed that games with women leads wouldn't sell, and so Cassandra's brother Lexus was included in the alternate alternate lead, while Cassandra is still the canon protagonist of Odyssey. It always felt to me like the decision to have interchangeable lead made it more difficult for writers to develop either Cassandra or Alexios as their own characters. Knowing what that it was decision forced upon the team executives now accused of harassment and abuse leaves even worse taste in my mouth. This is what the Joe Parlock is writing or wrote about 3 hours ago on PC Gamer. Which brings us to the subject of today. Again, content warning. We're already talking about harassment, sexual assault, and even rape. If you feel that any of these subjects are being mishandled by ourselves, or you do not want to engage with these subjects, we thank you for your time for waiting for us at this moment, and hope you can support the podcast in the future. You know, but we also, I personally feel, as a primary podcaster here, that I should talk about this. So let us begin. And I'm going to begin with something very interesting, because that article actually frames it the way I really want to frame it, about content. You heard about separating the author from the art. But in this case, we're going to be talking about separating or can we separate the corporation from the product? Going back, and you probably heard about the harassment and other situation with Ubisoft, which is not the only company has it, as well as Crunch and other things going across the industry. Riot Games last year was, earlier this year, last year, we were talking about that as well. That's just another example. Looking back at my experiences with Ubisoft products, received through the Far Cry games, and also the reaction to all people saying, new Valhalla is going to come up. I'm very excited. I'm like, did anybody forget the spoilers? But this game deserves to be spoiled. So, but I'm just going to do it for, being polite. The ending, the very rapey ending to Far Cry 5. If you don't remember because you played it but thought it was just stupid and nonsensical, it was a little bit more than that. In the canon ending, because they made another game that made that ending canon, there was a world war that destroyed the planet Earth, and you find yourself in the sort of half sequel in a post-apocalyptic world. The main character decides to arrest the villain, defeat him. Nuclear weapons start going off. Tries to escape. Everybody dies except player character, could be male, female, and then finds himself trapped in a bunker with the villain, who essentially and tied and restrained, manacled to a bed. And the title character basically misquotes from the Bible, Adam and Eve, and suggests that he is going to engage in what can only be described as forced sexual activity in order to, quote unquote, repopulate the earth, regardless of the character's gender. Not that any particular gender would make sexual assault acceptable. It isn't. But that's the gist of it, right? But it gets worse. People who play Far Cry 3, not only are there several mentions of rape, especially male rape, but there's in fact, in the middle of the game, there's a rape scene. Now, back in the day, I was put off by it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But I will set the scene for you. Again, there were mentions of this, so warning. Your character is approached by one of the principal NPCs, and as you're approaching her, you're playing a male character. She basically drugs you. That fades into a scene of sort of boss battle with you and a bow and arrow and this mythical being that is throwing fireballs at you. And like, you defeat this creature in your drugged dreamscape, and you wake up tied to a laid back on a stone tablet, while the same female NPC is having sex with you, right? Or the player character, not the player. We're not that far into VR, thank God. And she's naked, she's semi naked. She's just body paint. The animation it's sort of censored in the way you don't actually see any penetration, but it's clearly she's having sex with you, right? Gyrating and moving as she's having sex with you, and it's by you again, say the player character. And then the game proceeds with the player character apparently accepting the fact that they had sex, even though at no point were they consulted. And they were under, they were drugged, so they could not consent, which is the definition of rape. Engaging in sexual activity without explicit consent. Um, I say that because now we know about Ubisoft behind the scenes, and let me give you some examples. This is from Jason Schreier, some of his a quote actually. Allegations that Hasco behaved inappropriately around women is sent to the office as well. In a meeting at Ubisoft headquarters in Paris, one of the top creative leads on a big game, and either Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, was presenting Hasco and other decision makers at the company. When the lead, a woman, left the room to use the bathroom, Hasco pulled up a YouTube video. According to the two people present in the meeting, he played a French song describing sexually explicit acts with a woman who was the same name as the presenter. He hit pause when the employee walked back in the room, said the two people who requested the woman name not be printed. As it was common in high-level meetings of Ubisoft, there was no other women present. And this person has been fired. We talk about being fired. He was resigned. As one of Ubisoft CEOs, Yves Guillemot, close friends until the vicinity this month, chief creative officer for decades. I take it by the title that this is someone who had an influence had a hand on, the story, among other things, the creative aspect of video games. The one word has to be greenlight or cancel a game. They have to spend months preparing for Sergey meetings. Another quote, also from Jason Schreier on his Twitter. Current and former employees say Hascott enabled bad behavior by fashioning the editorial quarters into a sort of frat like the one in Animal House. People who work in the department describe pornographic videos on computers, boozy lunches, and chorus of inappropriate jokes. 5 workers said they reported Francois to HR at various points over the past decade, some of them multiple times, for instance, including sexual propositions and genital grabbing. One former Ubisoft employee says they wrote an email for a CEO some years ago about the problems in Francois, not long after Francois was promoted. And this is the behavior of Tommy Francois. They said that they were told it was just Tommy being Tommy. One fun time world champion gamer has revealed how she suffered sexual harassment from day one working in the world's biggest game audio studios. So the news that's from Australia, news.com. So yeah, we talked about the reckoning of coming a Me Too movement coming to video games. But again, the point I want to make here is that in many ways the games have done the we told you so already. We've been known, right? And that's sort of the question here is, can you look at these games, play them, support them, not only knowing the history, which is something, Chapo, when you said to me about playing Dragon Age Inquisition, not just to focus on Ubisoft and its games. About a week ago when I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition on stream, which I'm still playing, hopefully pick it up tonight or tomorrow night. And bring, we just started the week, but it's been already a long week for me. And, we are already seeing the reflections of that attitude. Characters being cut or added forcefully, rape scenes added. And one of the things I find particularly troubling about the Far Cry series in general, I don't know so much about, although the things I played about Assassin's Creed and some of the thing, is the intentional attempt to take away player agency away from the players. Especially during the story. The player character gets, in Far Cry 5, the player character gets tortured, drugged, and it's implied to have been under, basically mind controlled by the villains. And at the end of the game, again, spoilers, you lose. No matter what you do, the story decides that you lose. So, I mean, I'm not going to play more Far Cry games, and I'm not going to buy anything from Ubisoft, because I found the whole experience with Far Cry, which I think it's now been 3 years since I streamed it early on the year, a very bad experience. A good game ruined by narrative design choices that sort of ruined it, my experience. I think there's still the VODs. There's still my video of me just shouting and complaining about how bad it was. But that was the question, right? We're talking about microtransactions. We're talking about exploitative practices, crunch, and now rampant sexual abuse in and out of the game. At what point do we say, well, I'm not going to support this anymore? Right? Where do we draw the line? I'm going to put that question out there. I think, Chapel, can you hear me?
Yeah, so
You're thinking about it. Sorry about that. Yeah.
it's just I don't. This is almost. I almost want to say it's worse than like the. There was another story I believe we covered. We might have talked about a bit. I don't think we talked about it in a full discussion. Was it the? There was a studio, and I want to say it might have been the Nether Realm studio where it was people were talking about like the essentially the people working there had PTSD from, having to look at, like, really graphic content so they can put it in the video game so they can emulate that to make
Mm-hmm.
it more, I guess, accurate to how gore and blood would look
Mm-hmm.
if this were to happen in real life. And I right now, I can't, like I can't I think this is worse in that way for people that some of the people that are working like, in Ubisoft because not only are they having to maybe, depending on what kind of content they're working in video game, maybe kinda research these, like, what does rape look like to try to make it more accurate in life, but also going through it in their hostile work environment. Uh, it's just oh my god, it's just I I personally can't fathom it. I've never been through something like that. I can only imagine, but I don't think I can fully imagine that just the extent of it, the full extent of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to can you separate the corporation from something from like I guess the final product, the art? Hmm. I I think it almost objectively, from an objective point of view, I think it would have to depend on what kind of content the art has. Something like I'm gonna go with, like, some extreme, maybe something like, um and not just because I enjoyed this game, but, like, Beyond Good and Evil, the first one, maybe, like, I can see that being separate because I don't think it really touched upon themes of maybe what developers are going through per
Mm-hmm.
se. I could be totally wrong. Maybe someone else can interpret it differently. But like say your example with like Far Cry 5, I don't think you can. Maybe that was put in there as like a cry for help. Maybe that was part of like the artist um intent, or maybe they're why that sort of ended up in there because um in that case, I don't think you can. You can't separate the corporation because the corporation's the one that put the artist in that position in the first place, experience that in order to put it in the video game,
Mm-hmm.
and not that that was the corporate reasoning for sexually harassing their employees, so they'd be better at depicting sexual harassment and rape in their games. That would be way too far of an accusation, but, uh so in those kind of cases, yes, I think you can in some ways separate it. And that's from an objective point of view, but from a like when it comes to personal, that's gonna really depend on everyone's own how they feel like they wanna reconcile something like this from the art.
Hmm.
Like, to me personally, like, I wouldn't have a problem playing, like, a Far Cry game that, maybe or not a Far Cry game, like, a Ubisoft game that's, like, maybe, made like, released a couple of like, a decade ago. I'm honestly, personally more hesitant now to ever touch a Ubisoft game, like a Ubisoft developed game, and I would even kinda go as far as to question whether I should even touch a Ubisoft published game,
Hmm.
because, I mean, it's still them being involved in some way, whether it's something as innocuous as just the marketing and, like, "Yeah, there we go, there's the game out there," or maybe they had a more heavy hand in it, but in some way they're involved, and they're still taking, money from that. So, I don't think I can really support Ubisoft in any way now, at least not with anything current, but even I would still play, like, say, Beyond Good and Evil, the first one, or maybe some of their older back catalog, but I don't think I can really bring myself to wanna promote it or stream it anymore, and anything more recent, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Origins, I don't think I would even wanna touch it at all now.
Yeah.
And anything going out from now until, I don't know, I feel more comfortable giving them my support, they've taken change, and these allegations aren't well, I don't wanna say aren't coming out because they could still be happening and no one's talking about them again. When it becomes very clear that the culture within the company has changed and that kind of behavior will not be tolerated.
Hmm.
Maybe I'd be more comfortable in, like, "Here's my money, there's a product that looks really good, here's my money." And, "Hey, I really, talk about this game more that I enjoyed." Uh, like, uh, that's where I'm sorta am at that point. It's like, I don't think I can support Ubisoft anymore, and again, I also don't I feel bad in some way because that's somewhat punishing the people that are not involved. They're just going to work, they're putting their heart into the product. They have nothing to do with management, they're not any of the harassers, and maybe they're also happen to be the harassed.
Yeah, but I don't think you are
But
punishing. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think you're punishing
yeah,
them. The people who are punishing them are their bosses, but harassing them. They're gonna harass them whether or not the game is successful or not, right? That's just corporate culture, right? In many ways, their success just enables it even more because, like, hey, I have money, I have power, I have succeeded. Ergo, whatever it is that I'm doing is being rewarded at multiple levels, right? So there's that. And it's not only Ubisoft. I mean, we're talking about also harassment. We're talking about crunch, which is in many ways crunch is a form of harassment in a sense. The idea that you have to keep on working, you have to sort of to be a slave to whatever it is that you're working at. I mean, another example is The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us, the first game was sort of this, and it had some brutality in it. It had some zombies and whatnot, more of a horror game. But it's about this travelogue, right? Of these two characters going through a post-apocalyptic America. This one is torture, mayhem, murder, revenge, etc. That's the diet of it. That's the gist of it. Gets defended by some of the people who made it as great art and as the price that we pay to make great art. But we know that there was a lot of crunch and stuff like that. And again, you talk about watching images and how do you spend hours analyzing how a pick goes through someone's neck or something or stab wound, right? There comes a point where so some people I think might be raising alarms that we're getting too much into the video games are harmful for people, and we're not talking about that. Let's just get that out of the way. We're not talking about that you're compelled to do X because you played a video game. This is about the price of making the sausage, right? This is the price about bringing your games to the forefront and how the games themselves reflect that process, right? And maybe when we do play a game or see a game, we should see those red flags and you're like, wait a minute. there's something here more than just a virtual or fantastic, um, representation of something, right? Um, and my take is, like you said, if you feel uncomfortable, I would encourage you not to play any more of these games, not buy any more of these games, right? I to people who continue to buy them, I say, well, I'm going to give you a warning. This is what you're getting excited about something, and give you the information, and hopefully you will make what I consider to be the right choice. But that's entirely up to you. It's your money after all, right? Uh, but but yeah, this is just another thing in the list of things that are no bueno. They're not good. And I think aside from voting with our wallets, we're just sort of looking at it from the outside, going like, nothing we can really do other than be informed, which is, I think, the most frustrating thing of all, right?
Hmm. Ah, it's a heavy topic, and it's just everything with what's going on in the world. It just feels mm, like everything that's bad that's always been there. This isn't anything new. It's like the veil is finally falling off, and it's horrible that we're seeing all of this crap, learning about all this shit that's happening. But at least in a way, we can hopefully start to deal with it and change it. Make sure that people don't ever have to go through stuff like this again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's like I'm seeing my Twitter page. Well, first off, I just got a very shitty comment from someone who follows me, and I think they promptly deleted
Hmm.
their post in regards to me making some comments on a Life is Strange 2 and
Oh.
um the Hispanic representation there that I admire, and a lot of the like BLM themes that they have there. Um
I think that's another angle, not to this
yeah.
much, is because, of course, uh, one of the things that also the marketing and the corporation does in marketing is that they hype up aspects of, oh, hey, we have a female protagonist, oh yeah, we have gay characters, oh, we have this, we have that, and it comes as a, well, the only term I actually like to use is, the only case I want to like to use a term, which is actually virtual signaling, right? I don't believe individuals virtual signal. Individuals are hypocrites.
Hmm.
Corporations and institutions virtual signal because it's part of their of their marketing and their presentation. But
Yeah,
individuals
and
are hypocrites, right?
yeah, and I'm seeing right now that Twitter is posting, at least for me, like what's happening. Ubisoft comes under fire following claims that mishandled abuse and harassment allegations.
No, this is, and even that it's and Jim
It's
Sterling talks about how the press and many times is complicit on this and stuff like that. But using a term like mishandling is such
yeah,
a,
it mishandled abuse and
it's a
harassment
dodge.
allegations.
Yeah, that's another thing I
By
think.
mishandle, you mean they not only ignored those claims, they perpetuated that culture in the corporation.
Hmm. I mean, it's part of the corporate culture, so don't, you know that's another thing. If we're gonna handle this, we got to speak with the truth. Obviously, it is a heavy subject. Not everybody's gonna be comfortable with it, but using terms like mishandle it and don't use it in a very least ironic way, it's part of the problem because it gives the impression that it's like, oops, it was a mistake. It's like, no, we're talking about a systemic problem in the company, right? That the people in power use that power to harass and abuse their own employees, and that's not acceptable. So there's that. So when you say it's being mishandled, well, if you want to talk, if you want to hear more about this subject later on, I would point you at Jim Sterling over at Jim Sterling channel and the Jimquisition, and the Podquisition on his podcast, his own private site, for more of this discussion. Um, you know, I think the only thing we can do is, and right now, go over our wallets if we think that something is wrong with our supported product, and be straightforward, not insulting, not attacking, just saying this is the truth, the way we see it, and not use terms like mishandling that actually misconstrue the actual situation. So that's all that we have for today. Thank you again for coming. If you wish to support the channel, there are many ways to do so, including subbing, following, dropping bits, and buying my book. We just have some horror elements into it and stuff like that, but not as heavy as this podcast. You can find it at Amazon for 99 cents. It's a short anthology of flash fiction, 20 to 30 stories for you to enjoyment. So thank you. Chapman, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me at Chapo on pretty much anywhere. I am Chapomon_Aragon on Twitch and Twitter. I primarily hang out on YouTube. That's Chapomon. Hopefully, I'll release something soon-ish. We'll see.
Yeah, and of course you can find me here, usually at night, finishing up Trespasser, Dragon Age Inquisition, and probably moving hopefully to No Man's Sky in the future, and of course the podcast, either Tuesdays, Mondays. We usually have Monday reserves for something else, which I can't really talk about, but it's incoming. Not on the channel, but somewhere else. And on Sundays on Raktus channels, that's Raktus. I am the GM for Ironclaw, the Isles. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.